Aiden's hand slid over my face, his fingers brushing gently against the soft skin of my cheek. I swatted at him quickly, but he dodged my attempt to stop him, pulling back with a grin. "Aiden, stop it," I said, my voice a mix of frustration and laughter. The small living room was filled with the sound of our playful banter and the warmth of our laughter cutting through the cold winter air pressing against the windows. The room was cozy, a refuge from the chill outside. Aiden had always been a tease. Even as a little boy, he had this natural charm that could light up any space, and now as a grown man of 26, the charm had only grown stronger. I looked at him, my son, now taller and broader, a man in every sense yet still carrying the boyish mischief that had always made him so endearing. His dark hair was messy from our playful scuffle, and his blue eyes sparkled with amusement. "Mom," he said, leaning closer with a grin, his breath warm against my neck, "you know you love it." I rolled my eyes, pretending to be annoyed, but I couldn't deny the truth in his words. Aiden had a way of making me feel connected, loved, and supported, even in moments like this. Our bond had always been strong, but it deepened after Henry's passing a year ago. My husband had been the love of my life, and losing him had been like losing a part of myself, but Aiden had been my anchor, giving me a reason to keep going. Let me tell you a bit more about myself. My name is Nora, and at 62, I still carry myself with confidence and grace. I've lived a full life filled with love, challenges, and memories that shaped me. I'm proud of the way I look. My curves are a testament to the years of living and loving well. Henry, my husband, had passed away suddenly, leaving a hole in our lives at the time. Aiden was 25, just stepping fully into adulthood. Losing Henry was a devastating blow, and the grief was overwhelming, yet through that pain, Aiden and I became even closer. Our bond was unbreakable. Even when Henry was alive, he would often joke that I lavished too much love on Aiden, overshadowing him, but nothing could have been further from the truth. My love for them was equal but unique in its own way. Henry was my partner and my rock, while Aiden was my pride and my light. After Henry's death, Aiden became my helper, helping me shoulder the weight of running our family business and navigating life without my husband. Grief bound us together in a way nothing else could, and we leaned on each other completely. He gave me strength on days when I felt I had none, and I, in turn, reminded him of his father's love and the legacy we were building together. So here we were in this cozy little room, finding comfort in our laughter, our connection, and the unspoken understanding between us. Aiden and I shared a closeness that some might find unusual, but for us it felt as natural as breathing. We played and laughed together, finding joy in the simplest moments. There were nights when he would rest his head on my chest while I held him just like I did when he was a baby. To me, it was a comforting reminder of the bond we'd always shared. Even as he grew older, turning 6, he still sought comfort in my embrace, clinging to me as if he were that little boy who once needed me to chase away his fears. I never saw anything wrong with it. It was our way of holding on to the love and connection that had carried us through so much. As the months passed, our relationship evolved in ways neither of us expected. It wasn't just the physical closeness, the shared baths, or the late-night conversations, but something deeper, a connection that transcended the usual bounds of mother and son. Our connection became the foundation of my existence, a heaven where I found solace and strength. Life had thrown us into uncharted territory, and we made it in ways that others might not understand, but it felt so perfectly natural to us. Aiden was not just my son, he had become my partner and my confidant and my unwavering support. Every evening, after the chaos of running the family business, Aiden and I would settle into the comfort of our living room. It was our sanctuary, a place where the weight of the day seemed to lift, leaving behind only the quiet bond we shared. The room was small but inviting, bathed in the soft golden light of an old lamp that sat on the corner table. Its glow wrapped the room in warmth, making it feel like, as a fauve from the world outside, Aiden was always close to me, sometimes so close that our shoulders touched. His presence was steady and a quiet reminder that I wasn't facing life's challenges alone. Though we didn't always speak, the silence between us felt comfortable, filled with an unspoken understanding that words couldn't capture. One ritual we both cherished was our shared baths. It began as a simple act of kindness from Aiden. He had noticed how overwhelmed I'd become after Henry's passing, and took it upon himself to create moments of peace for me. He would prepare everything with care, running the bath and adding a generous splash of lavender oil, knowing how much its calming scent soothed me. The tub was large and luxurious, big enough for us to share without feeling crowded. Aiden would help me step in, his hands steadying me as I eased into the warm water. We'd sit there side by side, letting the heat relax our tired bodies. Sometimes we'd sit there side by side, letting the heat relax our tired bodies. Sometimes we'd sit in comfortable silence, the only sounds being the occasional splash of water or the soft hum of the heater in the background. Other times we'd talk. Aiden would share memories of his father, recounting stories that made us both laugh and cry. He'd speak about his dreams for the family business and how he wanted to expand it and honor Henry's legacy. His words were filled with determination and love, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride in him. "Do you think Dad would be proud of us?" Aiden asked one evening, his voice carrying a mix of vulnerability and hope. I cupped his face, my thumb brushing over the light stubble on his jawline. "He already is, Aiden. He always was, and so am I." He leaned into my touch, his blue eyes searching mine as if seeking reassurance. In that moment the room felt smaller, the world quieter, as if it revolved around the two of us. In those moments the bath became more than just a place to unwind. It was a space where we connected on a deeper level. Aiden's care and thoughtfulness reminded me of how much I meant to him, and in turn I tried to be the steady presence he needed as he navigated adulthood without his father's guidance. These evenings became the highlight of my day, a time when the burdens of responsibility faded away, replaced by the simple comfort of being together. The warmth of the water, the soothing scent of lavender, and Aiden's unwavering presence made me feel safe, cherished, and supported in a way I hadn't thought possible after losing Henry, though life outside the walls of our home was often demanding and uncertain. Certain moments with Aiden reminded me that I wasn't alone. Together we found solace in a ritual, skating a new rhythm to our LED sun rooted in love, understanding, and the strength we drew from each other as time passed. The physical manifestations of our closeness grew. He would sit beside me on the couch, his head on my lap. I ran my fingers through his hair. It was an unspoken agreement, a way to ground ourselves in the comfort of each other. One night, as she rested his head on my chest, she murmured, "You're my everything." M's words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. Kissed his forehead, my heart swelling with a mix of emotions, love, pride, and a sense of responsibility so profound it felt like a weight and a privilege all at once. We built our lives around each other, our routines intertwining seamlessly. One night I sat at the edge of my bed, unable to sleep, the weight of grief pressed down on me, a constant reminder of the hole left by my husband's untimely death. My eyes were puffy from endless nights of crying, and my heart was filled with a loneliness that no one else could understand. I missed him so much, his laughter, his touch, his presence. It felt like part of me had been ripped away, leaving a void that nothing could fill as I stared at the walls of our bedroom, trying to push away the memories that flooded my mind. I heard the creak of the door. Aiden stepped in, his eyes soft with concern. He always knew when something was wrong, even when he was just a child. It was one of the many things that made our bond so strong and so unique. "Mom," he said gently, walking over to me, "I saw you sitting here, and I couldn't help but come in." I looked up at him, my son, my best friend, and felt a tear slip down my cheek. He reached out, placing his hand on my shoulder, and the warmth of his touch sent a shiver through me. It was a simple gesture, but it meant everything in that moment. "Aiden," I whispered, my voice trembling, "I don't know how to go on without him. I miss him so much. I need him." Aiden leaned in closer, his breath warm against my skin. "You don't have to do this alone," he murmured. "I'm here for you, Mom, always." His words brought a flood of emotions. Tears streaming down my face as I clung to him. He wrapped his arms around me, holding me tightly as if trying to absorb my pain in his embrace. I felt safe, cherished, and loved. It was a feeling I hadn't experienced since my husband's passing, and it was both comforting and confusing as we sat there, lost in our shared sorrow. Aiden's hands began to move, gently stroking my back, my arms, and each touch was deliberate, filled with a tenderness that took my breath away. I looked up at him, my eyes searching his, and found them filled with a mixture of love and something deeper and darker. "Mom," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I need you to know that I love you so much." His confession hung heavy in the air, a silent plea for understanding. I felt my heart beat faster, my pulse rushing in my ears as I tried to process his words. They were dangerous and forbidden, yet they stirred something deep within me. Something that I had buried long ago before I could respond. Aiden leaned in, his lips brushing against mine in a hesitant kiss. It was gentle, almost reverent, as if he were afraid of breaking me, but the moment his lips touched mine, I felt a spark ignite inside me, a fire that I hadn't known was still burning. I kissed him back, my body responding instinctively to the touch of his mouth. It was wrong, so very wrong, yet it felt right in a way I couldn't explain. Our kiss deepened, becoming more urgent and passionate. Aiden's hands moved to cut my face, his fingers tangling in my hair as he pulled me closer. Our tongues met, exploring each other with a fierce intensity that left me breathless. I could feel the heat between us. Rising the tension, Aiden's hands roamed down my back, his touch electric, sending shivers down my spine. "Aiden," I gasped as he pulled away slightly. We shouldn't be doing this, but he didn't stop. Instead, he captured my lips again. His kiss was more demanding and insistent. I surrendered to the sensations he was stirring within me. "Aiden," I tried again, my voice trembling as his lips trailed a fiery path along my jawline and down to my neck. This isn't right, but even as I said it, my hands betrayed me, threading through his thick hair and pulling closer. His breath was warm against my skin as he murmured, "Then why does it feel so perfect?" His lips moved lower, brushing over my collarbone, soft and persistent, making my protests dissolve into a quiet gasp. "You're beautiful," he said softly, his eyes roaming over me with a reverence that made my cheeks flush. He leaned in again, his mouth finding mine. The kiss was deeper this time. The way he kissed me wasn't hurried or desperate. It was slow and deliberate, as if he wanted to savor every second, every movement. I felt his hands skim along my sides, his thumbs brushing against my ribs, igniting trails of fire wherever he touched Aiden. I whispered, my voice catching as his lips found the hollow of my throat. His hands slid lower, settling on my hips, pulling me against him. The heat of his body against mine was intoxicating, and I couldn't resist. Tilting my head back to give him more access, his lips returned to mine, moving with a hunger that mirrored my own, his hands cupping my cheek with a tenderness that made me shiver. I tangled my fingers in his hair, pulling him closer as his mouth explored my mouth, leaving no inch untouched. Every sensation was heightened, every touch was electric. The sensation was overwhelming, a mix of heat and electricity that made me arch against him, craving more. His hands moved with confidence that belonged to his age, yet there was a tenderness in every movement that reassured me and made me feel cherished. His lips followed his hands, exploring and leaving me breathless and yearning for more time. It seemed to blur as we lost ourselves in each other, the world outside fading away. There was only Aiden's touch, his kisses, and his whispered words that made my heart race. "Aiden," I murmured again, my voice trembling as his lips found their way back to mine. This time the kiss was deeper and more intense, and I felt the last remnants of hesitation slip away. The night stretched on, our breaths mingling. Every kiss and every touch, every whispered word felt like a declaration, a promise of something neither of us could fully articulate, but both understood. And we didn't stop, not then, not for a long time. The room was filled with the sound of our whispers, our laughter, our gasps as we explored each other, learning every curve, every line, every secret. It was as though time had paused, allowing us this moment, This endless night where nothing else mattered but the two of us. Aiden's lips never left mine, his touch reverent yet. Filled with a growing urgency that matched my own, his fingers traced intricate patterns along my sides, sending a shiver of anticipation through me. "You're everything I've ever wanted," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. I silenced him with another kiss, my hand sliding down his back, feeling the tension in his muscles, his warmth, his strength, and the way he looked at me as though I was the only person in the world. It was intoxicating. I should have stopped this, should have put an end to the madness, but every time I opened my mouth to speak, his touch silenced my protests, drawing me deeper into the moment. His hands cued my face as he kissed me again, his thumbs brushing over my cheeks. "Tell me if this is too much," he whispered, his eyes searching mine, filled with both passion and concern. "It's not," I said, my voice a breathless whisper. "I want this. I want you." The words were barely out of my mouth before his lips claimed mine again. His kisses growing bolder and more demanding, his hands roamed freely now, sliding over every inch of my skin, his touch igniting a fire that consumed me. I couldn't get enough of him and couldn't pull him close enough. No matter how hard I tried, the air in the room grew thick and charged with the electricity of the moment. My hands found their way into his hair, tugging gently as his lips traveled lower, tracing the curve of my neck, the hollow of my throat, the rise of my chest. His mouth was hot against my skin, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. Every nerve in my body felt alive, every touch sending a wave of pleasure. Rippling through me, I lost myself in the sensation of him, in the way he made me feel cherished, desired, and loved. "Aiden," I whispered, my voice breaking as his hands slid down my thighs, pulling me even closer. His name fell from my lips like a prayer, a plea, and a confession of everything I couldn't say out loud nor murmured against my skin, his voice trembling with emotion. "You're incredible." The intensity of his gaze and the way he looked at me as though I were his entire world made my heart clench. I knew this was wrong and knew that what we were doing would have consequences, but in that moment I didn't care. All that mattered was him, the way he made me feel, and the way he held me as though he never wanted to let go. Time lost all meaning as we surrendered to each other, our bodies and souls entwined in a dance as old as time. The room seemed to pulse with our shared energy, our breaths mingling, our hearts beating in unison. Finally, as the night wore on, Aiden held me close, his arms wrapped tightly around me. I rested my head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat as it began to calm. For a long time we stayed there in silence, the weight of what we had done settling over us. I could feel the guilt creeping in,